So everyone is here. Are there any additional items for the agenda?
Yes. According to the bylaws, this should be the month where we vote for new officers.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, the only thing, I haven't had any direction from the commissioners except their statement. They wanted everything status quo until
which
the report of the special report.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I don't know.
anytime soon.
Has that referral been put out? I thought it had been.
And there was no
Request for no response.
response.
No
So
response.
The process starts all over again. So we're looking at another half a year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Should have.
half a year to a year.
Well, they haven't exactly kept anything status quo. I mean,
Exactly.
on their
Well-
end.
And status quo to me would mean, and in fact, this did come up when I asked about the bylaw corrections that we had submitted in September. They said that they had not done them yet, and I asked, does that mean that we revert to the current bylaws? And I was told yes.
Okay. Wait, what date
That's
was?
what I remember.
Well, let me see if I can find anything.
I don't remember what meeting that would have been in, but I could find out.
Okay.
I'm sure it would.
Was it fall? You sent the bylaws in on the 13th.
And you
is it?
sent them recently.
I sent them September. I don't remember the
I
exact
didn't
You
send the
sent-
bylaws. I asked for it to be put on the agenda on
Oh,
December
okay,
26th, and
okay.
it wasn't.
I
But I
thought-
also wasn't at the December 26th meeting.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was, I wasn't either. It was well before that.
Right. I
It was
did.
probably November.
Okay.
It was before we got into the whole budget mess, so.
Okay. I had at the meeting, the November meeting. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the November meeting. The last one I attended, right before Thanksgiving, I guess.
Yeah.
I had asked Zachary Gates, who told me to ask Daryl Miller.
Oh, right.
And then
Okay.
I wrote to Daryl Miller through Leah and never got a response. And I left 2 messages and never got a response.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, here it is from Daryl Miller, November 7th. Gentlemen, this is an email from me. Gentlemen, the election of officers for the coming year at BCL will take place at the meeting on November 14th. Would this be a logical time for some of our board members to retire? Serving beyond the limits set forth in the bylaws are Linda Warner, Cynthia Porter, and myself. Please let me know your thoughts on this matter, Marguerite Shaner. And the response from Daryl Miller, I would not want to see new officers. Daryl Miller. I'll show it to you.
okay. All right. Okay.
So
That-
could
that
we,
would be just
we'll
about
at least have,
retirements then.
pardon?
That would just be about retirements then, or
Well-
forced retirements. That
Well,
would be
and I
about
was reminding him also that it's time to elect officers. And so his reply to me, Marguerite, I would not want to see new officers. Daryl Miller, Chairman.
So,
Well, he may not want it, but.
right, that's what I was going to say. According to state law, he on his own has no authority to change how the current board operates.
Well,
They would have to vote on that, and the current operation is a selection of officers
and then here's
in
a
January.
further note. I do not believe the board should be making any changes right now. I'd rather see the status quo until after the consultant completes the process, November 7th.
Which there is no consultant. And
So I'm not going to make any action on this at this point until we have further discussion with the solicitor or the commissioners.
So that's from one commissioner. They have never voted on
Well,
what he had stated. So he has no authority to change the bylaws
That is
on
true.
his own. The
Well, he's not-
bylaws state that the
Yeah.
officers are to be voted at this time.
Mhm.
And anyone in law would tell you that you can't change things and then say, we got to check whether or not we did that right. You would keep the status quo, which is the selection of officers now.
Comment from others? Carol?
I don't know enough about the law to make any comment at this point, but you know, if they say they want things to stay status quo, I think we should stick with what we've got.
Cynthia?
I guess I thought that the one email that you had read was in regards to the term, length of time and not officers. So that.
Well, I
was
remind him.
One of the emails that you were referring to, you had forwarded to me because I was in question with.
Yeah, that was
terms,
earlier.
so,
That was earlier. Well, I said the election of officers was going to take place, and then his reply is he doesn't want to see a change in officers. So.
I would like to add that it doesn't really matter. I understand that we're an advisory board, but we do have bylaws that we are obligated to file unless there's a motion and an election as a group to not follow them. Or there could be a motion and a motion, a second, and discussion, and a vote taken to continue with the bylaws as written. Like, it's not really something. It has to be. It should. If there's dissent or a question that it's not really within their purview, there would have to be a vote on our part. So I'm just, I mean, as far as I've ever understood, if they didn't, they've rendered the word status quo meaningless in terms of the library and the library board, the library, the staff, the budget, everything. They've rendered it completely meaningless. So it really isn't, legally, it isn't part of their, it isn't, we're under no obligation to follow direction with the word status quo held in it at this point. That's an absolute, it's not really a point of order, but that's a directive. So also there was no official, it's meaning no disrespect, there was no, if they wanted to do this, it could have been, they could have called a meeting. Well, not even public necessarily, but it could have been
notified the board.
They should have notified the entire board and had a meeting or for discussion if that were the case. And they had the opportunity to do that and bring it up as part of the meeting that we all attended on the 30th at the courthouse. You know, they don't.
Larry could have brought it up when he was here at the meeting in November.
Yeah, he could have. I mean, I don't know that
he may not have been aware of what.
I don't think it's been a discussion point, but that's an opinion, not a statement of fact. It's just, I do not believe that we have been in a discussion at all. I don't think we've been included in it.
The email that I sent, I never sent to an individual commissioner. The email was to all three commissioners. I always send to all. That's why I call it. That's why I say gentlemen, you know, because it's the three that I always. So they all would have been, you know, aware of my statement to them.
But they may not have been aware of the response from Commissioner Miller.
Well, I think sometimes he responds as chairman of the board. So it would be my feeling to again ask them and have the three of them vote on this, or the three of them give us direction and we can address it at the next meeting. That would be my feeling.
Your bylaws state that you select.
Well, it says that they would have been nominated in November.
Your current bylaws?
Well,
Yes.
That was the bylaw change that we put in.
That was a bylaw change. That's not the existing.
That's why I say when I asked them about that, they said, yes, we revert to the old bylaws. And the old bylaws have been signed by commissioners. And they have been in effect since 2011.
I would.
And you can't violate those bylaws just because one commissioner states that it may be okay.
I would make a motion that we add election of officers to this meeting agenda.
Okay.
Second motion. Point of inquiry. Would you read again the messages from Mr. Miller and give me dates if you would?
Sure. Okay, but do you want me to start with my message to them? For clarity.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Gentlemen, the election of officers for the coming year at BCL, and this was November 7th.
Okay.
Because then the meeting was going to be the following week. The election of officers for the coming year at BCL will take place at the meeting on November 14th. Would this be a logical time for some of our board members to retire? Serving beyond the limits set forth in the bylaws are Linda Warner, Cynthia Porter, and myself. Please let me know your thoughts on this matter. Marguerite Shaner. And I'll have to say, whenever I send a message, which is rare, to the commissioners, Mr. Miller is usually the one who replies to the message. So whether that's how it goes or what, I don't know. So Daryl Miller on November 8th said, Marguerite, that's good to know. I don't know what he was referring to. Thank you, Daryl Miller. And then, let's see, November 7th, so they got out of order. From Daryl Miller to me, Marguerite, I would not want to see new officers, Daryl Miller. And then, let's see here.
What was the date of that?
November 7th.
Oh, his reply was November 7th.
Yep, and then here's another one that they seem to come in different emails. Marguerite, I do not believe the board should be making any changes right now. I'd rather see the status quo until after the consultant completes the process. Daryl Miller, Chairman, Bradford County Board of Commissioners. So those are the messages.
Well, my thoughts on those, if I may, is that they're vague.
Pardon?
They're vague. He says what he would not want to see, but he doesn't directly say, I asked the board not to allow such a thing. It's subjective. And again, status quo, as Margaret said, is a meaningless term anymore.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
Okay, so it's been moved. Margaret, you made the motion, and
Yes.
You seconded the motion. Any other comments? Okay, raise your hand if you'd like this motion to go forward. Okay, 3-4. Margaret, I assume you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was
okay. And that you do not want to. Okay. All right. Okay, approval, we only have one set of minutes, the November meeting. And you just received those, so take a moment or two to look over those minutes. Okay, having read the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Or?
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And is there a second?
My second motion.
Cynthia? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So we approve the November, and Margaret said she will be sending the September later. Okay, correspondence. Is there any correspondence, Alan?
One is in there, and basically it's at the very back. It's simply an email from New Cumberland Public Library, and it's showing where they have open positions, and it's just simply information to say, here's what they're putting out as far as having an open position and what they're paying salary for that position.
So is that something that you had requested?
No, it's in I'm now getting all of, and I don't know if it's still Jeff's emails or only Rebecca's emails now come to me. I don't have anything from the day that she was let go forward that was there, but all new stuff is now forwarded
Oh,
to
yeah,
my
so
email.
she might have sent a question.
So
She might have
this
sent a
was,
question.
no, I've continually gotten some different ones since. Must be some of the libraries just send them out whole statewide.
Huh, oh, yeah.
So,
Well, it's their search for employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A
so
search.
that's all.
Any additional public comment?
Yes. Particularly about the Library Advisory Committee. You served on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And before that, you had been at a press conference with the commissioners where they were basically advocating for the closure of the library.
Do you have
correct?
a question?
I can make statements and ask questions.
Okay.
Statements verifying things and then I'll ask
Okay.
a question. You were at that press conference, correct? Where they were
It was a
advocating for-
commissioners meeting.
There was a press conference before the LAC as well, right?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
Before that first meeting, our organizational meeting,
Yes.
there wasn't a press conference.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. The friends attend, some of the friends, quite a few, attended, but I don't recall a press conference that day.
No, not
Are you-
that day. It was
Oh.
a week or so. It
Oh.
may have been even before we had the meeting at the public safety building. Or maybe
Oh, I was
shortly
talking
after.
about the public safety building.
No, I mean, the commissioners meeting where they declared that they were going to put the committee together.
Oh, yeah.
There was a press conference sometime around that time.
Not that I recall. There were
Okay.
members of the press present at the commissioners meeting.
That's separate than the
Yeah.
press conference. As a member of the LAC, the Library Advisory Committee,
Mhm.
did you write the recommendations for the library committee?
No.
Okay.
The group had a secretary.
Mary Campbell, correct?
No,
Oh, who was the
no.
secretary?
The administrator, Lisa, struggling with her last name, she was the administrator of the Martha Lloyd School, Lisa
Oh, Musselman.
Musselman, who since relocated. She was the secretary of the group.
Okay. And you all decided on those recommendations that went to the commissioners?
The group,
Designed it? Yep,
decided.
they designed it?
yes, the group design, yes,
Okay.
the group
Because Mary
decided.
Campbell had said that you had brought in the recommendations.
No, we didn't, everybody spoke. Well, I put together my first recommendation was to keep the library open.
Well, she was specifically saying that the recommendation that was brought forth and then agreed on by
Yeah, well-
the LAC was brought forth by you.
Not exactly. No, my recommendation, we all took a turn speaking, and my recommendation was to keep the library open. And then we had discussion, every person around, said what their ideas were, and the committee as a whole came to a decision.
A vote on,
But the,
A decision on what our recommendations would be to the commissioners. So, and the secretary, those minutes possibly are available. I don't know. I imagine they would have been available.
no, the commissioners said that the LAC had destroyed those.
I wasn't
we've
in charge.
received-
I wasn't the secretary.
Okay, we've received other word since then, and we'll figure that out.
I was the
commissioner
secretary pro tem
specifically-
of the first meeting, but then not following meetings. And
Okay.
that was just an organizational meeting, as the friends you were there. And we were just organizing and choosing officers, etc.
Yeah, so the commissioner stated in legal documents that all records from the LAC, except for those recommendations, had all been destroyed. That's why I'm
I
trying to
don't
figure,
know. I
that's why I'm
don't
trying to
think-
figure things out, is because
Yeah, I don't think I kept mine because I wasn't, the
you
secretary.
weren't the secretary. So Mary Campbell was wrong about you having brought in all the recommendations.
Well, everybody typed up different things that they wanted to share.
Right.
But it wasn't-
What I'm saying
it
is
never
the
went forward
recommendations that
from-
went forward to the commissioners she had said that you had brought those in, and then the group had agreed upon them.
I made some recommendations, and I had made a copy for people because we had made copies of what our recommendations were. And as I said, my recommendation was to keep the library open.
You don't have a
But to
copy of
reduce,
those
no,
anymore.
no, I figured everything was over and done with.
Okay.
You know, that all of this is in the commissioner's hands, so.
Now, when Rebecca was fired, did the commissioners notify you at all?
No.
Get your advice?
I learned about it in the newspaper. My husband was reading the Daily Review, and he said, "Hey," and that's where I learned about it. And Carol, didn't you learn about it at the systems board meeting?
At the system board meeting.
Right.
Did you approach
There were only a
them?
couple people at the systems board that knew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I had not.
I met with Leah Monday, and she's saying she didn't even know. She was hearing different rumors. Oh, a librarian's been fired in the county, and wonder who it is. And there was no message being passed on to her at all either.
As this board's president, did you approach the commissioners about that at all?
No.
Okay.
Remember, we're advisory group. I mean, and their actions, personnel actions, as Mr. Miller has stated in the newspaper, will not be discussed, so.
Right, but that's with people outside of the,
Yeah, I don't think,
Government,
I
you're
think,
part of the
I don't
government.
think any personnel matters would ever be discussed with us as a board.
did they discuss?
Do you
anything
think
with-
so,
No, I
Alan? No,
totally
personnel
believe they will.
matters are,
They will say absolutely nothing.
they don't,
It
they
is
won't-
That's their
It
choice,
is
but
a
I
labor,
would think the
it is a
board-
labor law, it's
Yeah.
got to be, and it will not be discussed with anybody except
yeah, I
those
think it's
few
private,
right there in HR and the commissioners.
right.
It'll go nowhere.
But not, I feel that it's a sign of disrespect to you and the board in a whole that they wouldn't contact you to let you know before you had to find it in the newspaper.
No.
I'm just, that's, it.
I guess they probably wouldn't want to share any information until and when they took that action, when they actually took the action, and you know, they didn't notify me.
I mean, even immediately after, I guess.
Yeah,
I know it's
yeah,
putting a
well,
fine point on it, but if.
They have their protocols, and I'm not
Well, they,
aware of it. So it's over and done with. So I don't know what would it
Yeah,
gain
not
to
everything is
continue to
over.
discuss this.
well,
Pardon?
Not everything is done and over with, and I hope this board would have a more proactive president to.
Perhaps, yeah.
Have they contacted?
Well,
you
after
about the-
that had been done, what would I possibly do to undo some personnel matter?
Well, it's not about undoing things,
Oh.
it's about communications.
Oh,
Have they talked to you at all about the RFP?
no, Except
Have
what's in
you
the
tried to
paper.
reach out to them since it was?
no, because that's all they're doing. I mean, you know, do you think our board has the expertise to,
I think it's an
Comment?
advisory board for the library.
that we could develop an RFP? I don't know. Do you
we
think
could certainly contribute to one. I mean, we
Yeah.
can certainly give
Well,
opinion.
I think we
We have a broad range of experience,
Yeah,
all of us. Every single person sitting in this room has a broad range of experience and a love for libraries. So I'm saying this, please understand, and to clarify, I feel that there is an amount of disrespect shown by the commissioners, to put it mildly, towards the library board. I feel that creating, I don't know what, I guess when they took, what the year that they took over the library, it became a county library rather than its standalone library. And a board was developed that it's with the idea that that board contributes something of value to the institution. Even if it's run by the county, it's the personnel matters that are run by the county, the budget that's run by the county and overseen by the staff here, that the board should have a stronger, more
Presence.
presence isn't really the right
Proactive,
word. I guess
maybe
a stronger, The commissioners should award or give more respect, I suppose, acknowledgement, respect, attention, and communication to the board. We're not, it feels as though that if we're not considered, we should be. I don't want to use and I will say it, but I specifically do not mean that this is a waste of our time. It shouldn't be relegated to a waste of our time by an outside group. We're here for a reason. We spend our time for a reason. We think about this for a reason. We want to help. We want this to remain. We want we want the library to remain open as strongly as it can, and as a valuable resource as it can. And if we're not to be considered, we need to insist on being considered. I demand is a strong word. That's not the tone. My tone would be to say that we should be given the respect that we were as a board long before I was here, obviously, but as a board, as an institution, advisory or governing, either or should be given more acknowledgement in the face of decision making, in the face of recording, in the face of letting people know what's going on. It's otherwise, it shows a certain amount of disdain and disrespect to the members of the board. And considering that Commissioner McClinko has, for at least 7 meetings that I've attended, has gone off the wall for 10 to 15 minutes at a time about the importance of volunteers within our community and how important it is to have people who volunteer and how much respect he has for people who volunteer. We are volunteers. So we would hope that would extend to us.
Right. And piggybacking off what you're saying, it would be nice to have more influence with our time and our thoughts and our opinions.
Mm-hmm. The case in point is the September 30th meeting we had with them.
Yeah.
You know, all that time we put in with them. We didn't hear back from them.
No.
So communication should be a two-way street.
Yeah, agreed.
I just want to point out one thing in the bylaws. We don't have a personnel committee, but under Article 6 committees, Section 2 says the personnel committee shall consist of 3 directors appointed by the president. The purpose of this committee is to review and make recommendations to the county commissioners concerning the library director. I think normally they're talking about hiring, but it doesn't say that. And then it says after that, the Bradford County Human Resources Director will handle all personnel matters in accordance with personnel policy. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, you know, we as a board should have contact. And
we did have a committee. It was Linda Warner and myself, and I forget who else was on that. There was a committee. And years ago, we used to do, well, including Mr. Singer, we did evaluations for several years. And I don't remember the people's names because they've had a series of human resource directors. And he said, you can meet, you can evaluate the director, but I can tell you right now, it's not going to change anything. It won't change I'm not familiar with the wage scales, or won't change the scale or anything. It's not going to change anything, but if you want to write a report and submit it, you can. So we did for several years. And key to that report was with the individual, which was Mr. Singer, have him set goals for the coming year. And we would both have the same set of questions, and he would evaluate himself, and then we would evaluate him, and then look at those reports together and see where there were differences, and then have a discussion. I forget if it was then Linda, as chair of the committee, had a discussion and went over the evaluation with him. But key to it was he would suggest a couple of places where he would like to see improvements or changes. So then with Mr. Singer, we only did that, I think, a few years, don't you, Cynthia? A few years?
I just remember, yeah, a few years with that.
A few years.
Yeah. But it was done and it was submitted and,
Yeah. It was done and it was submitted, so then that kind of got put by the wayside a little bit, I guess. We didn't continue it like we should have, perhaps. Okay, any other comments at this point?
Okay, I don't think, this
Yeah,
started
this
with
was-
your comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
Public comment.
All right.
I'm good, thank you.
Are you done with your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Alan, do you have any information?
I did not draw up a full report, I just started
Okay.
back,
Well, that's
Thursday
why
doing
I
half
wasn't
days.
sure you were even
The
back
one
yet.
sheet I gave you, which is the legal one, it just has the numbers pulled together. At this point, I have, in the
So it's this
at the
large.
end of November and the end of December, there aren't numbers in some of those slots, and it's gonna have to be me getting with the IT so that I can get on Rebecca's computer
Uh-huh.
and to be able to see some of the documents that she has, where some of that is in place and how things are counted, and to be able to go into Hoopla and see how many Hoopla hits there are, how many website hits there are, and Overdrive. Accessibility should be there, and I don't know why that one isn't.
Alan,
But
forgive me, you
it's-
said that you need the accessibility.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, and I talked with Lily today on that, the head of IT, and they'll get me there. It's just time of me getting, my desk cleaned off after a month and still being able to move on to do some of the other things that'll have to get done and will end up being a part of the annual report.
Okay,
Um,
that's what
so-
I was hoping, all the information was still available, because I figured
It
it
should,
was all
it should be.
on
They should be able to
computer.
get me there,
Right.
to see it. So it's, like I say, it's just a matter of getting those extra steps done, to get on in there and to be able to see things. And where I can pull those other, website hits and the Overdrive hits and Hoopla. So,
Alan, can I ask a question?
yep.
Would it benefit you to have access, I don't know if it's under supervision, to Rebecca's previous correspondence before she was let go? In order
Such as
to
emails?
tie things up. I mean, it's not for the purposes of following through anything that she had kind of going on or progressive, that your only other source of information would be to have it.
All new emails coming to me and that's it. From
But I mean, would
from
it,
that day forward, I'm not able to see any
or backward?
Any emails. Yes, backward. I'm
But
not
would
able to
you,
see
would
any
that
emails.
benefit you? Or not? I mean,
Maybe on a couple things.
okay. Would you want to get back to us on that?
Usually follow-up
or-
things are continuing to come in as far as emails go.
Okay.
It would just be some documents such as me knowing where I'm gonna go find, and that's getting logged on, to get these counts.
Okay.
It's me getting on the passwords,
Okay.
which I may have, but it's being able to get on her computer to be able to get into everything and have those numbers,
Okay.
so.
Would that be something of benefit that you would like to make the request, or you would like us to make the request?
I'm okay. IT will help me out. Yep. No, they'll help me out with it.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't, of course, this was all thrown at me, the beginning of Rebecca being let go, we reduced hours, I think it was to 53 hours a week, just with the staff to be able to make it work and keep a couple people here at a time, working through the budget. Even before Rebecca was let go, they chopped our budget horribly, and in actuality, when we went down to the meeting for our budget meeting, as we always do to see our approved budget for the following year, Terry and I were both let go, and Rebecca was here, and only part-time employees. That's what they had on that budget. Alan jumped in the air. I'm gone. You mean tell me I'm let go at the end of the year and we don't know this?
So
So Alan took action. Alan has worked with Dan in accounting, Sheena in HR, and the commissioners to get the budget that I have today. They have added on $46,000 since that point in time.
And is that somewhat to cover any aspects of the bookmobile?
Bookmobile isn't touched. Actually, they
Okay.
separated that.
I know they did, and so is it
And
back together?
no, don't separate. You're serving no purpose taking this and trying to have a budget of the bookmobile, and they threw it at $45,000.
Yeah, I knew it was
And it's
around.
like,
Yeah.
where did you come up with this number?
Mhm.
And when you went through that part of it,
Was his
it
salary?
basically it was salary
Yeah.
and all payroll, maintenance and gasoline, and then there was a line on there of, I'll say supply type things. I can't even
Insurances,
remember
maybe.
what it was. No, it wasn't even insurance.
Hmm.
And they had a number of $6,000 and something dollars. And I said, where'd you come up with this number?
Hmm.
Oh, we just balanced it to reach $45,000. Crazy, and so I got them to bring the bookmobile back on our budget.
So, okay,
It is not separated. We have one budget and the bookmobile is on our budget.
So
okay.
what, is that here?
Dan didn't want it. When I asked Dan the question, Dan, why did this happen? He says, let's just say
See it.
I took the easier road because he didn't want to fight it.
I see.
Well, I did. And it's all back on one now.
Okay.
And Dan says it's much easier for me. It made me a whole bunch more work to try to separate this and make another account.
Okay,
So it's all brought back on one
all right, well, that's
of the
good.
library budget. Yep.
Are you saying that it's
What are we
in
looking at?
Fund 09, Library Department 401 includes?
It includes the bookmobile, yes it does.
The old Department 402 or whatever it was for the
For the
bookmobile
book, no, that doesn't
doesn't
exist.
exist anymore.
No, it does not.
And everything in here, this 2025.
And the 25 one is there, yes,
Should be there.
yes.
Okay, well, why don't
Can
we,
you give
since
us
you're
the line
asking
items?
questions about financial report, Alan,
Yeah, I can go in.
continue on to
I can go into
You
that.
have two papers, you have fiscal year to
Yes,
date
we have the
underlined,
24 budget.
and you have 2025 budget.
Yes, on the
amended.
24 budget, in going to that, and I'm gonna start right on the front page.
Now, which one are you on, the budget?
I'm on our budget for
Okay.
2024, 12/31/24 in the upper right corner. Let me go find it. Okay, down under 398-010. Transfer from general fund. They transferred 31,000 in December. Normally what they've always done, transfer quarter by quarter by quarter and put it in our budget. And as you can see, they haven't done it. We're 147,000 short of what was initially budgeted of the 426,000. But when you take it to the back page, they have us at a negative 31,305 because they didn't transfer money. So if you go all the way to the back page, our expenses are greater than our income because they have not transferred the dollars to cover it. So that is a question that I have for them. I'm not sure when I'm going to have a meeting with them. Rebecca always had meetings on the department head meetings on the third Monday at 2:30. This month's third Monday is a holiday for us.
Oh, yeah.
They've claimed Martin Luther King Day this year for the first time ever as a holiday. So that's a holiday for us. I have just talked to Leah. Leah in the courthouse is waiting for another response back from another department as to where I may move to for my meeting, which might be the 21st. I'm not sure when my department head meeting will be. So that'll be something that I will be asking them. What about this? I could throw an email to Dan and say, hey Dan, aren't you going to send me more money from transfer from general? I'm at a deficit right now.
Because it has.
But anyway, that's my only issue with it, is that they haven't transferred money. You're always going to be possibly over in an account or two, but in the big picture, we're always above. And if they would have transferred the other 147,000, we'd be way above. So.
So you're questioning the kind
Transfer
of
from general.
routine transfer of 31,100 and
Well, and the balance of that,
Overall.
because we're at a deficit because they haven't transferred enough money over.
Like payroll, wages and salary. So I'm gonna have to go back and look at the other proposed budget to see what this, how this is different.
Our 25 budget, and the other sheet is here. So they did not change anything from what we presented to them at the first get-go on any of our expenses. They just simply didn't give us payroll, and everything that was taken away was all complete payroll. And then again, that's what I fought back to get more of. I'm letting a couple weeks go by here is to see how things are going to work as to the way we're set is possible. And still unknown, I've thrown it at Sheena in HR of possibly hiring a part-time person to be able to keep staff here and to have 2 here at a time, because it is still pretty slim the way it is, even though we've reduced hours. Any one person that might be off for a reason, you still, as a possibility, might only have one person in the building.
Well, and that's not, we need
No.
to have 2 people here.
Yes.
We
but
need to have 2
it's-
people here,
it's-
and they've made that statement. I
And they
believe
have,
They've made
but
that statement.
you've
that-
got to give me budget and you got to give me people.
Right.
So, and they haven't fully got back to that. So again, I don't know. They have said when they let Rebecca go, well, we're going to hire a librarian, and that came out of HR also. But in any meeting that I've been in, I don't see that really coming forth. And what are they waiting for?
Has that been advertised?
Right now, I don't know that they could quite physically do it in the budget, but you've told me you will. So I am going to bring up in every single meeting and chance that I have to say, when you hire a librarian, it's going to come out of my mouth every single time. So, not that they will answer me, but where are you? I'm not a librarian. I told you this before we even got here. I told you that on the day
Right.
Rebecca was fired.
Right.
So, because I went to that meeting that day. That was the day of the 3rd Monday of the month when she had her meeting. So, we'll see where we get.
Alan, if I'm not sure if you have this, what is the amount of money that they're requesting for the waiver from the state that they've requested? They've requested a waiver from the state that was in the.
Is that for hours? Was that for
No,
hours?
that is simply, they're requesting a waiver from the state for not having a librarian.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
but how much money were we getting from the state that we won't get because?
I don't think that will change one bit.
No.
If we get a waiver, nothing will change.
No, I understand. That's not. What was the what is the amount of money that is received from the state?
33,000.
Okay, that's.
I'm gonna look back at last year's. We were 33,729 last year
Okay.
is what we got out of state money.
So. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know it will make it'll. Is that?
That money comes into the system.
Sure.
One paycheck coming to the system.
And they distribute.
The system has a formula. 1/3 equal, all 9 libraries. 1/3 circulation and 1/3 turnover. So you have to keep track of how many you're buying and how many you're weeding. Because if you don't keep that balance, you're going to lose out on 1/3 of your turnover. So there's what's going to happen with that to be able to keep it up, as well as in that competition with all 9 libraries doing the same thing.
Right.
System.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you never know where you are.
Extremely complex.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you never know where you are. She gets approximately the same amount of money. I don't know what's there this year. I have not seen that number, whether Rebecca knew it beforehand or not. Probably not, because it gets pretty close to December.
Have you seen it, Carol?
Before they let that go
Is it a
out.
system?
Yeah. Leah did tell me Monday
Bradford County
that
Library.
it's probably this week of when the checks will go out to the libraries for it.
So
and the
now we're
break-
talking
the
Leah
breakdown.
Chisholm.
Leah Chisholm, yes,
Yeah,
for
okay.
system, yes.
There's 2 Leahs.
Yes, correct.
And
So
we're-
that money was supposed to come in Monday or Tuesday from the state this week into the system, and then she'll put the money out based on the formula. So,
And at that point, we'll know whether or not the waiver was accepted.
no, we will not.
When will we know? Do you have
I
any
don't know
idea?
if we will know.
ever?
That actually is moving forward for another year's money. They won't change the money for this year
Okay, okay,
at all.
okay,
It's a possibility that it could reflect next year's money,
okay.
but personally, I don't think it will.
So if the
I
waiver
have
is for
known,
next
I have
year,
known glitches within the system in prior years of what's gone on with some other libraries and the way that the status of somebody, the head of the directors at those libraries, which should be meeting certain criteria in the way they had the steps of how you were called, and I forget what those names are. And if you don't meet that, they're not cutting money. I don't see it.
okay,
I do not see it.
okay,
Department of Education is gonna say, here's what you're getting.
okay.
It's just paperwork. It's stupid paperwork to follow up with, if you wanna say that. You know, it's the things that the states make you do for no purpose at all. It's like trying to explain to them how you're gonna use your money when you get state aid, when they tell you you can use it for A, B, and C.
Right.
But you gotta give them a report of how you're gonna use it. Huh? A, B, and C. What do you want? You know, it's that kind of stupidity.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
No, yeah, I agree with you. It's bureaucracy.
Yes, yes. For no reason.
In regards to the 2025 budget
Yes.
performance report, so would the 443 through 458, that would be in reference to the bookmobile, is that correct?
Where, what, 43?
It's page 3 of 4 of the
The
2025.
maintenance agreements is anything that could be within the library.
So
That is not the bookmobile. The bookmobile is the next one down, 450.
okay,
And
452.
auto repair, 452. The insurance of the 458. And then he is a part of everything payroll down underneath that. And back in the beginning for his salaries, all the way back on the
Well,
first
it's
page.
all, it's
Or second
put in
page.
there
Where is it?
with everybody else.
Yeah, first page.
So it would be
Okay.
his wages.
They're all incorporated right
Will all be
in,
in
just
there.
like they always were.
Yeah.
Yep, no difference now.
So this represents, 2025 represents the bookmobile being a part of the budget.
Correct. Yes, he combined that 45,000 back in here. There is a training coming up on the 24th, of which I think I'm going to get into, that Leah brought up to me. I've got to find out how to get into it. I'm looking at everything. I'm not seeing what
Is
I do
that
to
online?
sign up.
Is that
it's
online?
probably online. It's a training for the state aid stuff.
Okay.
So
Was that in the North Central Library letter that came out from the system board? Was that mentioned in
It's
that?
a different thing.
It's a different thing, okay.
okay. That was for
That was in March.
board members, right?
That was in March. He's talking about January.
Oh, yeah, January 24th,
January,
yes.
okay.
Yes, so I have to try to get in that. And that's it.
Thank you for putting all this effort.
One more thing, our hoopla is changing for this year. The system has taken a big hit with hoopla and the money of which it costs for all the libraries. And anybody having an account was already reduced from 20 to 10 items a month to be able to sign out. It was my understanding each item that you check out is $2.99. She just come out with an email to us all stating what each library has coming to them. And I have a question back to her. I think what that means in this email is what the system is already going to pay for, based on our usage all over the time of having hoopla. So I think they took that down by percentages of what each library is using, based on what number of which the system is gonna put into that. Anything over and above that is gonna be on the library to pay for it. And maybe Carol knows and understands some of that in being in a meeting with them, but that's sort of how it was presented to me. If, I guess, we see a big difference in that, and that's something, again, I'm gonna have to get on into, is the hoopla end of
That's
that,
not.
and see some of those things. And if I feel that we need some money, then I would go to the Friends and ask for money.
Oh, that, yeah.
I was wondering if the patrons have been informed of this,
Yeah.
that there's a 10 book limit.
They're aware of the 10 because it
patrons
dropped.
are?
I believe they are.
Okay.
Yes, I'm quite sure that
Has
they
a
are. That was
notice-
quite a few months ago that dropped.
Yeah, well, I've heard it
Yep.
through the system.
Yeah, I don't
forward,
know
but
the date.
I just wondered if I hadn't ever seen anything in the newspaper about it. Is it on Facebook? Is it on the website? Where would they get this information? Where would they?
Because I'm not used to paying
I'm
any
not on
attention to it.
Facebook, so other
And now all of a
than
sudden it's in
being
my
on
lap. So.
Facebook.
It's a,
Yeah, I know the system had made that it was so expensive that they
Yeah.
were gonna go down to 10 titles.
Right.
And that included movies, newspapers,
10 titles per patron or 10 titles per library?
Per patron per month.
per patron, per
Okay.
month.
Thank you.
Yes.
And before that, I think it was kind of unlimited.
And I could even take that, the way that Leah explained it to me, I could take that amount of money and of which is out there for us that they will be paying for, and I could even break it down to a daily if I wanted to, and I don't know that I would want to, but I could even take that down to a daily. And let's say you wanted a book today and you went on there, it would tell you come back tomorrow because there's not enough money.
Yeah.
But if 5 other people beat you there tomorrow because you didn't go in until 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
Right.
the other ones went in at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's still going to tell you the same thing
Uh-huh,
because there's not enough money per day.
right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got to think about that as to
Yeah, I just didn't know how the patrons
how I see
would
that
know.
happening.
I haven't received, I
And
mean,
based on me getting in to see those numbers too, and which we can see, they're in the 300s and 400s every month. So
yeah, because I continuously use Hoopla.
Yep.
But I haven't received any message from anybody as a
Okay.
Hoopla patron that you are at book 8 of the month and there's a limit of 10.
okay,
I haven't seen any message from
Yeah, and I
Hoopla.
don't know how
So
the
I was just
messages
wondering how the patrons
come
know.
out. Yep. I'm unsure.
Yeah, that's a question for Leah Chisholm too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
I hadn't put children's on because I didn't know what was going on with children's. And Ashley, since you've been doing some work with the children's and story hours, if you'd like to make some comments, I welcome
Yeah,
them.
it's been absolutely incredible. I just kind of had some ideas from when I've been coming with my children since 2013. So I'd had a pretty good idea of the way Rebecca did things, and I'm hoping that I didn't want her legacy just to stop. I
Sure.
wanted things to, for the kids, it was right before the holidays. I didn't want them to be without their Thanksgiving program and their Christmas program and without Santa. So we got together for all of those things. We had Thanksgiving story time. Santa came on December 10th, had an amazing turnout. We have been doing crafts, and my cart is actually behind me if anybody wants to see it. This is just for next Tuesday alone. This was from I forget when we did this, but we did, the theme was cold, so we did hot chocolate. We made their names in little hot cocoa cups, and they got to color their own cup and rip pieces of paper to make their chocolate, and they got to spell their name, and they practiced cutting and coloring and, fine motor skills. We talked about the weather, the way things changed when it's, do we wear shorts and bathing suits, or do we wear jackets and mittens, things like that. But yeah, it's just been phenomenal. The kids, they've been coming in. We've had new Storytime students come in. We've had our original Storytime students coming in. We even had somebody from Nova Scotia, which was incredible. That was really neat to be able to talk to them.
From where?
Nova Scotia.
Oh, wow.
That was really neat.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been
They
really
came to a
great.
couple events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they did. They came to the movie that week as well. So yeah, it's been great turnouts. We've been checking out everything from magazines to movies to books. Yeah, it's been really good.
Well, I thank you for doing that and stepping forward as a volunteer. Alan, is there any possibility of putting like her upcoming theme
Oh, it's
on
always
the
on there.
board?
And
Like bears, next week is bears.
Esther puts them out on Facebook.
Yep.
Okay, it's on Facebook. I meant the sign out front.
Ashley?
Oh, yeah, we
The
can.
sign out front. I
We
just
can.
thought, you know,
No learning
How much time have you, how much time did you spend per month? So for, you.
per week. She
Per
does it
week,
each
yeah,
week.
if you can do per week, yeah, if you,
It's it's over 2 hours a week.
Okay.
I've been here since 11 doing this. I wanted to finish this up before our meeting. So there was one time I brought my own children in. We were here for quite a while. They helped me get things around.
So in
my
addition-
husband has come in. My mom has come in to help me get materials.
so it's actually a lot more than 2 hours per week.
There's prep
The
time.
Yeah, it's prep
The
time.
prep time is 2 hours plus, and then the
And
activity
then the
itself.
activity is about 2 hours. I'm here from 9:45 until probably 11:30 on Tuesdays.
On the day, on the Tuesdays.
On the days I can do it, yeah.
And then the prep time with, when you figure
prior
in
to that.
everyone's hours, it would be 5 to 10, because your family's helping, and you've got, so you would say that coordinating for Tuesdays, it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 to 15 hours for the whole package, for coordinating, execution, follow-up, advertising. If you're talking man hours, meaning like, who helps you do
Monthly?
this? Monthly?
Per month?
Well, no, weekly.
I
Like,
would
if you have a Tuesday day, unless you can, I guess, when applying for a grant to do this, you can show either reciprocal hours, you can, that's one of the things that can be used is man hours. And I believe that an expert, someone with a degree, someone who's expert in education, would be counted at $25 per hour per matching funds in grant timing. So when you've got that, and then non-expert, but it doesn't mean to say that they're not in
Right.
value. It's not to demean value, but they put that at usually $18 to $20 per hour. It may have gone up. The last time I checked, this was in 2023.
Right.
But just to have an idea of the activity. So like if you had 5 people sit down for an hour, that's 5 man hours
Yeah.
of preparation.
Yeah.
So I just,
Yes, yeah.
okay, that's an important, it really is an important,
Yeah.
because it adds up and
Right.
it makes a huge difference in,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Sorry,
And
I
if they
don't-
wanted to get technical, I do have my master's degree in education.
Which makes you well,
So
it makes you an expert.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think perhaps what Margaret's suggestion, it would be good to try to keep track of your hours and dates and themes and hours, and then that information could be useful going forward.
Going
and
forward
for
and
grant
moving forward.
applications.
And not just grant
I think
applications,
that-
but
We have
also
her
explaining.
clearances
For everything.
Here on file, she's already had those, and she brought in those copies, so they're on file in working with the children also.
Okay, great.
That's covered, she's
But-
covered there.
For yours also, and whether or not they take notice of it, but it would be important to again stress, this is the reality of volunteering. It's not, let's give a long, strong definition of the reality of volunteering, rather than, well, she pops in on Tuesdays to do story hour, is not the case.
There's
So
preparation that goes
preparation
into
is,
that.
as would we with every
For one
teacher.
thing, getting the idea of like, okay, next week I'm going to do, what theme.
The idea,
et
the
cetera.
materials,
So a
the
lot of-
support.
A lot of thinking goes on into it, and we thank you all. I imagine we all thank you and appreciate the work you're doing to keep the program going and growing.
Yeah. I hope it's beneficial, but I want to make
I'm
sure
sure
that
it
it's
is.
known that it's still very much wanted,
Oh, yeah,
and
Right.
needed, and the kids they love it.
yeah.
And just seeing.
Do any of the parents step forward and say, hey, Ashley, if we could help you in any
Oh,
way,
absolutely.
we'd like to,
Yeah, they
we'd
do.
like to help out?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I just know being a parent myself how I've been a parent in their shoes, and now I'm on the other side with my kids in school.
Uh-huh,
I know even with all 3 of my children in school, my workload has not slowed down at all.
uh-huh.
I don't want to ask them of that. I know
No, but
how
I
busy
mean,
they
I
are,
wonder,
but they have
I'm
offered.
sure they probably are the
absolutely
type of
have.
personality, say, hey,
Yes,
if
they
there's
have.
anything we could do,
Yes,
Yeah,
they've been wonderful.
So, and it
Great.
also justifies the need for the position
Yes.
as a regular.
It does,
Paid
as a regular,
position.
because I mean, I can do what I can. Is this something I can do long term? I go week to week. My weeks change
Mhm.
on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So, it's
Yeah.
just for now.
Yeah,
That's
good,
weekend,
good.
but yeah.
In a way, it's good to train someone else, what you're doing weekly, so that if you decide you have an opportunity for a job or something that you want to go for, that somebody else would be knowledgeable about what you've been doing. Yeah, so
But
that's great.
certainly we would want this to
It's
not
wonderful.
be a volunteer job. I'm very grateful that you're doing it, but that it actually would
My wish
Be-
would be to see somebody that,
exactly
Yeah.
Right.
that it
that
not
worked for
just
this
be
position.
passed off.
Maybe you'll
Yeah.
work into that
Yeah.
full-time position.
that would want to be,
Yeah, right.
that is, they went to a librarian.
Yeah.
This is a job for a librarian.
Right.
I'm not a librarian.
And it's a part of
It's
also
part of-
collections development.
Yeah.
And it's important. And I think with the idea of you being in the trenches doing it, that it brings again to the attention, not just of the community, but also to the commissioners as well.
Right.
That, and I think when the public, especially when the public hears about their children and what services are for their children, that's a really huge, it's a huge statement to make, to have them say, acknowledge you for everything that you're doing, and that this isn't something that you can just keep, you can just keep up, that it's important that it become, because it's not,
Yeah.
it's
It's just not realistic to expect it to be a volunteer long-term position. I mean, I don't think, not only for myself, but for any person doing it, I just don't think it's a realistic thing. Like, this is a permanent program that is run by volunteers. I don't think that's a realistic or expectation, nor should it be.
okay, yeah, and I think, but to show what you've done, I mean, what you're doing is a multifaceted benefit to the library and the community. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other request I would have, since I pass by here more often now, is that this sign be changed, because what you're reflecting is not what is being seen on the sign. It says no learning time and you're doing.
Well, that's because
Great.
they're used to coming every Tuesday, and unfortunately, I'm not able to be here every Tuesday.
Oh.
So they need to know very carefully when I'm here and when
Got
I'm
it.
not. Otherwise, they would all get all the kids ready in the cold weather and show
Yeah.
up, and then they would show up and I wouldn't be here. So it's
Could
not
we-
every Tuesday. They know when I'm going to be here and when I'm not.
Could we change the sign to like
The date?
next learning time, January
Yes,
20th?
and they do. I just figured out
I mean,
that I
out
could
on
do.
the sign. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
I just put on it this morning when I
I
got here,
just
so-
told Alan, I just told them last night that I would be able to do it.
Okay.
I didn't know
So then you'll
until
put it
last
out on the
night
sign
Yeah,
next
we'll
that
learning
I was
time.
able to do it, so that's not any
Yeah.
fault of theirs that I didn't
No,
know.
I'm not faulting
But
anybody,
yeah,
but
they
rather
do
than
that.
having no learning time,
Yep.
Yep.
you know.
Yep, and that was
just
just from, we had
state-
a 3-week break,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
just to let them
sure.
know, we had a 3-week. Around the holidays, there was no
Sure.
way I could swing both, so,
Right,
yep, but that was just temporary.
okay, all right. Okay, next we have a bookmobile report.
And that's in there.
Yep, and that's included in your packet, totals for November and December. No community events. And they're going to resume in the spring. And also about maintenance issues.
So I see that there's, is aware of the closure in Sayre
Right.
We're aware
for
of
the
that.
early, Foundations Early Learning Center. Will the, a new station be, looked
Possibly,
at?
I know he was thinking of one other one, and I don't know where that's come, when he had first talked about it, so I'm unsure. So, yeah,
Like another early learning facility.
Well, right, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if
he
he's.
goes to the Head Starts over there in Athens.
Yeah, Head Start.
Maybe I don't know if he's exhausted all of the child care centers,
Right.
or not.
And
I guess that was his.
one other one, even from a year ago, we've never gone back to, and I can't think of the name of it. It used to be in the Athens Elementary. And they were moving and they never asked us back. So I can't think of the name of them.
And for the senior centers, I know that that's a bit of a issue
That's
because
countywide.
they've decreased the number of senior centers in Bradford County. But if there was another, group of seniors that would benefit, I
Right.
would think it would be wise to pursue that.
Yeah, maybe we could have I know he has it available, a list of all the places he does visit.
Yeah,
We could,
we can print
could
one and
email
throw it
with,
in your
yeah,
packet.
because I know he has that available.
Yeah,
And then update it with these ones that are being phased out.
And I think if any of us had ideas of, a senior center or a childcare center that, would
Profit.
profit,
Yeah.
right, exactly from it,
yeah.
That's also
let
a
us know
good
if you know
idea.
them, because we
or
can
patrons.
contact and see if it works on his days going to that area. So yeah. Sometimes they have more specific times based on with child things. Maybe they have nap times or something, and how his schedule goes. You got to twist things around to make it work. So
Right.
Yep.
And also senior
Sure.
facilities.
Sure.
Question, if you guys put in the replacement of board members or officers in the agenda?
That would go probably after new business down there, I guess.
Interest of time, I do have to go get my child that is 210.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay,
cannot
so
leave him at school.
Okay.
Okay, well then,
Shortly.
That's bad parenting.
Well, do we need to?
Okay,
I'm not
well,
leaving right
then-
now, I'm just throwing my stuff out.
then we could move that up then. Usually, those things go at the end, anything added to the agenda.
So,
We could move that up.
okay.
We could do that next if you'd like.
So that, and where on the agenda? What is it?
Well, after
Just-
bookmobile, above system board.
Okay.
Since Ashley has to go.
Okay, yep.
Just in the past, new agenda items have just gone, at the end of the meeting.
Sure. I just wanted to get it accurate for the actual minutes. Thank you.
Okay, are there nominations for specific officers? Anyone likes to put forward?
I nominate Ashley for vice president, Ashley Walker.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other
I
positions?
nominate Hugh Austin for president.
I'll second it.
Any other positions?
I nominate Margaret Boards for secretary.
I'll be right back.
Does anyone want to
Would anybody like to be
second that?
secretary?
And treasurer?
What are the duties, if somebody can briefly outline, what are the duties of
The
treasurer?
treasurer basically goes over, I've asked different times for them to be able to receive the financial report ahead of time. Usually they're guided by the director or acting director to note any areas that are of concern, that there's overspending or that there's not enough money, etc. They really just look over the budget performance report, and if they notice anything that looks,
So it's not as much of
Extraordinary.
a fiscal,
no, it's
Thing.
not
It's
a
usually a
fiscal.
signature.
No,
Budget.
because everything is done by the courthouse.
so there's,
We can't write checks, we can't expend any monies.
so there,
It's just to bring to our awareness, that's all.
okay, so if no one wanted to make a nomination or move themselves forward, there would, because there's no fiscal handling,
There's
there's
no
no
fiscal
conflict
But
of interest.
We've been through this last year. We thought
Okay.
about eliminating it entirely.
Yeah.
And then we, found out, well, there is that one duty of
You have
signing
papers,
a
there are a
report.
couple of reports.
Oh, do you
The
sign
annual
on a
report
report? I don't know.
That's what
The annual
Rebecca told
report.
me.
Annual
has to be
report?
signed by the treasurer
Okay,
Is
and the
that
board
the
president.
annual report to the state, is that
Yeah.
what that is?
to the state, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so it's really just a formality.
Yeah,
yep.
there are one or two reports.
Okay.
Any other nominations from the floor? Okay, nominations are closed. All in favor of accepting the slate of officers, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, going to the system board. Carol? Ann,
Okay, we
you?
didn't have a meeting in December, but at the November meeting under the old business, the commissioners still had not agreed upon an update for the memo of understanding, so it was suggested that maybe the system present a memo of understanding to the commissioners and have them sign it. Now, I don't know whether that has gone forward or not. The commissioners ask who appoints the trustees representing each library. And when told that each library selects their own, they agreed to that arrangement, and they agreed that they would not interfere with those appointments, and actually we
Just
don't
let
need
it
to
go.
go to them anymore with,
Mhm.
I'm correct on that, right? You? Yep.
Yeah, it was a little muddy, and
Yeah.
then they finally clarified it.
And Leah explained that one to me Monday when we talked, so, yep.
At that point, they had put out the new request for proposal for a library consultant, and the deadline at that time was December 26, and I guess, I don't know, there were no applications, or nobody knows if there was any.
There was one application.
Somebody said there was one that came in
There was
late.
one, and it was late, so there was no legitimate applications for it.
Okay. Well, it was mentioned at that meeting, if they did get one, that they were requesting all the libraries to speak voluntarily to that consultant so that all libraries could share pertinent information in the establishment of the independence of the Bradford County Library. Leah has reached out to the Wayne County System Administrator to seek information about how their system works, but she had not heard back anything at that time. But she also related that they fundraise about 60% of their budget,
Oh, excuse me.
Wayne.
Wayne County.
Yeah, they
Oh
do.
my goodness, sorry.
That's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed.
Is that just very
That's-
quickly, is Wayne a wealthy county?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't.
They're not as wealthy as.
Well,
Bradford
you know,
County.
Lake Wallenpaupack
I don't know.
and all that area is in
That
there,
would be
so
wealthy.
there's a big tourist area.
Oh, you're right.
But a lot of that money might
Homestead
be from
is there.
Philadelphia or New York.
It wouldn't be like Philadelphia or that area, but you know, it's a lot
That's
of
tourism.
tourism.
I don't know.
Okay, I wondered, okay, yeah, it's a discussion for another time.
I think that's
but-
the only other county organization in the state that is run by commissioners that has a county library, right? And a system.
Mhm.
I think so.
In
There's
all
only two.
in all of
Bradford County.
Pennsylvania?
I think so. I think
Okay,
it's
so there's-
Bradford County, and
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm gonna just very briefly make a statement. I've looked into Wayne County.
Mhm.
It's not that successful. I mean, I did
I
make
don't
a
know.
public statement. I did it because it came up so many times I was curious. And they run on an austerity model through the county, which has long been proven a disaster because of, I'm being coy here, but it was basically a misplaced decimal point when they came up with that system. It brought down Greece. I mean, it brings down governments, that particular,
I
it's
don't
based on von Mises and Austrian economics, and it doesn't work because when it was rewritten, I want to say in 20, or represented in early 2000s, first decade, it was found out by about 2016, it was discovered that the information was wrong. The calculations were incorrect, and it leads to disaster. I don't mean to, it's tough.
I don't know, I know I think they have quite a few libraries, like 7
Yeah,
libraries in the system or so.
There's always a financial,
Yeah, I'm
it
not
doesn't
sure.
account for shortfalls, and that's, I guess, an oversimplification of the problem, but that's why to fixate on that, it feels to me like a mistake. And
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll see what I can find and print out and send it around.
Yeah.
So, you know,
So who addresses their shortfalls then? Because they have a shortfall, then who does
they
the
adapt,
county?
and they don't, nobody addresses it. That I could find out. The
They
county does it. County
They
does it.
receive state aid and county funding.
So
Right.
they're,
But if they fall short, then they just have to
60% of their budget is done through
right,
fundraising.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
so-
in the real world, I just wondered how.
In the real world, it doesn't seem to me like the county and the state jump in if there's a shortfall in fundraising.
Yeah.
They just have to do something, or they have to cut farther and cut services farther, which was something that was brought up 2 commissioners meetings ago by Zachary Gates, who had made it, I think it was in the paper, but he had made a statement about he was the sole vote against the county budget because he felt that moving forward with a no new taxes agenda was going to be an absolute economic disaster within the next 5 to 10 years, if not earlier, because there are no more services to be cut. They just can't keep cutting. And now you're looking into encroaching on things like local roads. Eventually, you're hitting schools, local roads. You're hitting fire departments, you're hitting all of these things. They receive very little money from the county, but what they do, if they don't start, his point was if they don't start raising taxes 0.5% at a time, then you're going to be faced with having to make a huge jump all at once. And that was a point of a dissent. And I happen to agree with it because I think people will grumble, but deal with a gradual change, but a huge change is going to start a revolt, and leaving the county. Yeah.
So Commissioner Nikolenko indicated that he didn't come out and say it, but he indicated he only spoke to the commissioners in Wayne County,
Yes.
and they're happy with it. They never spoke with any of the libraries.
I spoke to the libraries.
Yeah.
And it was informal. It was, some of it was out on a drive, and an introduction.
I know others who have spoken to the libraries since they had been brought up so much. People have reached out to those libraries. Nobody's happy with the system because, how do you address the shortfall? You don't.
You don't address you tighten your belts. And that was overwhelmingly, that was the response that I didn't hit every library, but I made a couple of phone calls, introduced myself, and said, how's it going?
Yeah.
It was very informal. And, I could probably go back. I don't know if people will speak to me on a more formal basis, but.
Did they have, a system administrator? Was there a system administrator, head librarian kind of thing?
I spoke to.
Over the whole county?
Yeah, I did not speak to a head
I think so, because she said Leah said she had reached out to the administrator.
Yeah.
Right, and so there's a systems administrator, which is great.
And then there must be head librarians at
Tracy
each of the libraries.
Schwartz,
I spoke to head librarians and office
Tracy
managers.
I have here as assistant.
Systems administrator, yeah, I had no response. So,
Okay, Carol, back to you on your report.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, under new business, Leah explained the auditing schedule process, and for the libraries that are having difficulty finding an auditor because it really is difficult, nobody wants to do it, the Guthrie firm in Troy is performing audits for libraries and nonprofits yet. So the Guthrie firm there's a Guthrie auditing or book accounting.
In Troy?
Yes.
Troy, yes.
Yeah.
It costs
Is that related?
$6,000 for the audit, no?
Per library.
That's what
Yeah, that's what.
But is that affiliated with the Guthrie Healthcare
No,
System?
not at all.
Oh, okay,
No.
when you said
Completely
Guthrie,
private, just.
I was wondering, okay, they just took that name
Yeah.
for some reason.
I forget, it was Gary Horning and then it went to another name and now it's Guthrie.
Yeah,
I forget
Okay.
the.
maybe there's a Guthrie.
yeah.
They're right on Kansas
Okay,
Street.
Carol.
She mentioned that the bylaws are usually updated in February, but in light of the request for a proposal for a library consultant, maybe it makes sense to wait until later in 2025, but if we don't have a consultant, we aren't making any progress. We'll see what happens at the next meeting.
Maybe that's what happened with ours.
Discussion was held concerning the system becoming a 501c3, and the pros and cons were discussed, and it was mentioned that becoming that is a 15-month process, and the decision on proceeding with this was tabled until they could get more information.
Wouldn't the commissioners have to make that decision? Whether or not they make the system a 501c3 organization? Would that come from them? I don't know. It's a question.
I don't know that
Who
they
would
could
decide?
do it
I mean,
directly.
because
You have to go through the paperwork. One of the people at the system board was talking about their problems with doing the paperwork for a 501c3. I forget who that was, though.
Yeah, I don't think the system would just decide on their own to go
No,
that
this was an
route.
System
individual.
can.
Yeah, I didn't think they could.
They can.
Yeah.
There's
But it was like a several-year process or
Yeah.
something.
not necessarily, but I did some research on this, and it was an interest, and this is not conclusive, so please don't take it as such. Sometimes to address a problem, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact terminology of it, so it's going to be very casual, and I can put it down that we could maybe discuss it at a future meeting, because I think that would be important. Because it looks like what we might be facing, so forgive me for hemming, but I'm hemming and hawing a bit, but sometimes a local government, in order to address a problem that it does not want to continue itself, a county need, will create an organization to deal with it, and then they set it free. And that's what was done. My God, it took research to do this, but that was what was done with Northern Tier Solid Waste Authority. In the 70s, that was actually a county-run facility that was eventually set free. It's not a 501c3, but it is a not-for-profit. It's not necessarily, it's not a 501c3 by a long stretch, and I don't remember the cast. It's really hard to find the information. Ended up going down to the courthouse and hitting dead wall after dead wall. So I went to the newspapers to see what I could find and went through archives. So, and I was interested because I wanted to know what their accountability was to the public in terms of, but it happened so long ago that they're now their own thing. It happened in Philadelphia to address animal control in 2004. They created a group called Philadelphia Animal Care and Control Association, and it lasted 8 years before it fell apart. But they created, and then the city had to step in again and take it from the SPCA and create another thing and set it free. And that was 15 years ago. So it does happen, and that's probably the process that we would have to go through. And honestly, it's as short or as long as the participants want to make it. To my knowledge, I don't think as far as a library goes, I couldn't find any real evidence of that having been done, other than Wayne County. But
when I said years, I did have a note here that it was 15 months.
15 months.
About 15 months.
Yeah, 15 months, but it can, if somebody...
It can go shorter than that, too. I mean, I'm aware of some other organizations that didn't take that long, but they're smaller scope, so... Anyway, let's go on. Carol, finish your report and we can move on here.
Leah mentioned that there's a grant available for bookmobile services that might be worth looking into.
And can a governmental agency like our own go forward on something that doesn't have to be a 501c3, right?
I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
I have 501c3 in parentheses next to it.
Oh, okay.
So they have to
I
be
don't
in
know.
ordinance.
So sometimes you have to be a 501c3. That was the whole, as I understood from Leah, because this has been a topic with the system board for years. And from Leah Chisholm, saying that would be a reason to go for 501c3 because it opened up a lot of grant funding possibilities. So, okay, so anyway, there might be a bookmobile grant.
And Leah discussed the E-rate for hotspot funding and whether we could use our old devices or have to purchase new. And there was a discussion on the need to determine the community needs through other agencies' assessments, using other agencies within the county to determine whether we need these hotspot
Because originally, I believe, or at least lately, it was a grant from T-Mobile. That those were all through T-Mobile, right? Those hotspots. And so it was a grant. I don't know who applied for the grant, but maybe the system coordinator did. I don't know.
She talked to me Monday. She talked about the hotspots a little bit. And all the different libraries and different things are talking about trying to get through E-rate with the phone company things. E-rate is crazy to get. The forms are difficult. It's almost a nightmare to try to get through it. Jeff never did follow through with it. Diane did a couple of years when I started. Wasn't
Just
simple.
a
I remember
hard
them
thing.
all hating it, and we won't do it. For what it's worth, if you get in trying to go through those things with the E-rates and the forms and the processes, it's
hardly worth
ridiculous
it.
of what you get out of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where she is with those things,
Huh.
and how much still has to continue. So I didn't get it enough other than they're looking at E-rate.
Yeah.
So.
In the discussion about hoopla, it was noted that the hoopla budget is divided among all the libraries, but if an individual library wants to use their own funds to add to that budget, that's possible now. Our hoopla agent reported that the spending cap that was placed in June did not go into place correctly. So the system was went over the budget, and so system has asked for compensation for the company's mistake, and so they're debating back and forth, and stated that it'll take some time, but hopefully we will get a refund on that, and therefore all the libraries might get a little extra budget from that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
Anybody have a question?
Do you have anything else, Hugh?
That's all I have in my notes.
Okay.
I
Friends.
just had a question.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Ellen, in regards to spending more for hoopla, would that be a possibility for Bradford County Library or not?
I haven't dug into that to know where that money is and to break down those numbers of what we do every month. If it is $2.99 an item.
You know, and that's strange, $2.99 an item, because if you go on Amazon, there are a lot of free books and 99-cent books that you can download.
That's the number she threw at me.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
So, yeah.
I'm not saying it's not correct. I'm just saying it's kind
I
of
would go
high.
ask the Friends if it gets to this and think that we need more money.
That would be something for them to
You know,
tap into.
what can they offer up to us, whether I say monthly or boom, this much a year, to have more money for it, so.
I guess I'm actually asking, are we serving most of our patrons with, you know, what we're allotted now?
I'm not aware of many gripes to say when we went from 20 to 10.
I have no gripes.
I can't say that I know for sure, but I'm not aware that that was a big issue.
Okay.
So if we've got that same money and being able to do 10.
I think if people were having a difficulty with it, I think they mention it to
Yeah,
the staff.
I'm not aware
I
of
just
I'm not
didn't
aware
know.
of it. For me to hear it,
Yeah.
I haven't heard it myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I know the right answer, but
No, that's good.
yeah,
Sounds like it's not an issue.
yeah.
I don't think it's too much of an issue, but maybe it is. Okay, Friends Group, anybody knowledgeable about anything with the Friends?
Yeah, they had a meeting back on December 2nd. They had at the Luther's Mills Church, because with the new hours, this was closed. So Alan had a very nice letter that he read to us about, you know, the current situation. I don't know if you want to add that to the minutes of this meeting or not, but I
You could
thought
give
it
a
was-
copy
I thought it was
too.
very
I
good.
can print a copy and get it to you, yes. I give them my opinion, I guess, how's
That
that?
should be part of the Friends minutes.
Yeah, I was just trying to offer him
Yeah.
a chance. He
Yeah.
mainly said that, you know, with the new changes, he'd like the Friends to kind of maybe settle things down a little
Right,
bit.
I
and
did
give
see that
him
in the
a little room
newspaper,
to work.
but, yeah, I did see that in the newspaper.
Yeah. And he reminded everybody that he would be out for a while for his medical leave.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was
So any
received well.
fundraising events or anything?
Well, they've
you
been
have
talking
planned?
about things, they've been talking about having a GoFundMe operation. And debating whether that's worth the cost.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know that somebody had some information on that.
Well, they have a
And,
pretty good balance, don't they, in their,
Yes, they do.
budget,
Yes, they do.
$30,000
Something like
or so?
35,000, 36,000 actually.
36,000.
Yeah, they have a good budget.
Did any of them speak as though they were interested in volunteering at the library? The Friends group, if you have a large
No,
one?
that did not come up. They did spend some time trying to talk about the parade. There was going to be a lot of participation in the parade. And they
Burlington.
were talking about that, so.
Toronto parade, wasn't it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
Burlington,
No,
Tawanda.
Tawanda
parade.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
because I
this
know
was December
Burlington and
2nd.
West Burlington
No, it
also
was
do a
the
parade.
light up the night thing, I think they call
Oh,
it.
okay, yeah, I don't know what it was.
And they had
I
a
think it was
small
Tawanda.
float for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that's basically it.
Okay. All right, unfinished business, anything else anybody wants to bring before the group? And I had copied all of you when I forwarded Linda Warner's. I didn't do it as timely a matter as I should have, because her letter of resignation was just addressed to our board, so I didn't know if she followed up and sent it to the commissioners also. So
They're aware of it.
I
They were aware.
forwarded that to them.
Yeah.
And I reminded them that there would now be an opening on the board. So I thought I copied this group on that letter. I did,
spoke
didn't I?
briefly to Zachary after the meeting. and
Okay.
He mentioned that they were aware there was a vacancy.
What is the process,
Well, the
so that we have?
application
Yeah.
is on the website,
Yeah,
Commissioner's website. Yep, so they're aware, and we've never, ever had a part in giving any input on any applicants,
Okay.
ever. And interested applicants fill out the short application and forward it, and then the commissioners, when they decide, I don't know if they ever make phone calls or anything, or, when they decide, they let you know, and I think I had to inquire about you, had you been approved, or,
Right, right.
because, again, I hadn't received any notice that people have been approved. So I don't know if there are applicants, I don't know who they are, I've never been asked for input. Well, I think they did say, we've met Mr., and I said I had met you. That was the only thing,
Well,
because I said I had
was
met
coming to
you.
meetings at that time.
Yeah,
Find my
yeah.
letter.
Yeah.
So that was it, but,
Just as a reference, this is more for historical purposes, because I've been on a long time, but when I was asked to be on the board, an actual board member came to me and talked with me about it and asked if I, please consider. And then I submitted my application, and not too long afterwards, I, received
a letter,
Yeah, a letter.
yeah.
So I don't know, Carol, what your experience was, or.
That's what mine was. Someone asked me to be on it, and I did an
Yeah.
application, and eventually you receive a letter.
But
You never went for an interview or
No.
anything,
No.
or I did.
I actually had an interview
Did you?
with Mr. McClinko and with Mr.
Oh.
Gates.
Oh, that was good then.
well,
Well, it was just, I was there handing in my application
So,
because they had lost it before.
oh yes,
And I
I
wanted
remember.
to hand it in person and say, here it is, and Mr. McClinko came out and he said he wanted to talk to me, and I talked to him, and he says, let's go over and talk to Mr. Gates, and I spoke to Mr. Gates, and after that, I was approved.
Mhm.
I think certainly since.
Were you interviewed at all, Margaret?
no, it came up at the end of another meeting
Okay.
that I had, I think it was the last meeting of 2023. And they told, I didn't have an interview,
Well, you weren't on until May.
I know, I
Yeah,
didn't go
yeah.
until June was my first meeting, but I was, Daryl Miller told me to,
You came to
he
it.
told me to come to the meetings
Right.
and just go ahead. And I filled in, but they lost my application 4 times.
This has been a problem there
It's-
for a while.
Which is,
I know.
I was thinking about, do we ask to see?
Well,
to
we've
see-
asked before to be copied.
We put that in the bylaws
Yeah. On the
when we asked for
applications
the
and they-
changes,
Yeah,
just
we've
that they
asked.
provide us with a copy. We didn't,
Well, I-
We
say
haven't
that
had,
we would,
we haven't
you
had
know.
any reply from
if they have a file, well, if they're losing them all, they don't have a file somewhere.
No.
So that would be my thought would be if they had a file, would we look through that first and then make a recommendation?
I don't know. We put the bylaws forward, so I don't know. But anyway, so I did remind them, I copied you on that email, so they're aware there's an opening. Or maybe several. Okay, and for new business, I just put down possible activation of a volunteer group. Well, I wasn't aware of what Ashley was doing, so this is wonderful. And if there are so many interested friends, I imagine quite a few of those may have some time in their schedules to do some kind of volunteer work here. And I'm sure Alan or other staff members could come up with something. And especially if there ever is an emergency, when there was only going to be one person in the library. I only live a couple miles down the road. If I got a phone call and said, hey, you know, Kathy can't make it in, there's been an illness or whatever, could you come? Just to be a body here, not to do anything official, not to touch the computer, not to check people out. I don't want to see any private information I'm not trained to see or anything like that, but I would be a
We
warm
could
body.
shelf books.
I could shelf books. You know, I could
That's
shelf
one of the most
books.
Yeah, I did
important
that
things that
once.
happens in
Uh,
a
I
library.
could help
had to
people
leave for
find
a
a book
meeting.
on a shelf and
Yeah.
do kinds of things like that. You know, I could seal envelopes or whatever.
With the new hours, I hate to say this, but I doubt I'm going to be of much use to anybody with the new hours because mine would be evening at best. But it's,
Sure, sure.
I might be able to.
I'm
do
just
something.
saying that there are so many friends that among them, there might be 5 or more that would be willing to step forward and do some kind of volunteer task that we could be trained to do. As I said previously, I catalog DVDs or process the DVDs and stuff, and I could be retrained for that or some other kind of library.
This is going to sound really strange,
Work.
but I could do book repair. I mean, I've
Yeah,
done that
that's-
before,
that's a
so
good
I don't
thing.
know if they actually do that anymore.
They used to. I
Okay,
don't know
I
if
can
they
ask
still do
Alan.
or if
Yeah,
they just toss
I
them.
think usually they just kind of set those books aside. I know there's a stack of them in there that.
Fiona
I can ask. I'll ask Ellen and Terry because that
I
I
did
can
it one whole
absolutely do.
summer.
Yeah, it's fun.
Carol did.
It's really it's a really soothing
worked the
process
library
to
for the
compare
summer.
jackets and
Yeah.
things like that. I
You
like
can
it.
talk to them about
Paired
it.
books all one summer long.
Maybe at your next friends meeting.
I was going to, I put a note
Whenever.
on there.
Do
to
you know when your
bring it
next
up.
friends group is?
Well,
gonna-
I have
Do
a
they have a
tentative
schedule?
date of next Monday, but we don't have a location yet.
Oh, okay. Well, they're
It
open
was
till
to be
6.
determined, and
Or
I
maybe you
checked,
could go to,
well, I checked their Facebook, and it didn't have.
oh, I
it
don't know.
on
I'm not on Facebook, so I
I
can't
have
tell you.
One question about that. What would be is there any reason that a board member, if a staff member wasn't available, could open up this room, just this room, and then make sure they all went out? Not that library
You
would be
can,
closed.
I've had garden club here years ago.
When
and
the
they give
library's
you-
closed, you can open
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, you get a key, you get a form to
Special
fill out,
Olympics
how many people
Yeah.
attended,
I
what
think
was
you would
your
have to have at least
project?
somebody.
Yeah, you can do that,
Yeah,
because I
I
think
don't-
years ago,
somebody
a
would
parents
need to
group
provide
met on a
that.
Sunday.
Okay.
Years ago.
It
That's what I
had
wondered,
been in the
because if we
past.
needed to,
We were
maybe we
able
could
to come
make
in.
that.
One of our members had.
There is one other
but
thing,
I don't know if that's changed.
With a volunteer group, I would
And
like to
a few years.
say it so that
I
it's
don't
okay
know,
to add it
maybe
to the
they're-
minutes. I want to go back with programming, but to see if there are people that would be willing to do an adult or a family group type of program, either in an evening. The whole library wouldn't be open. I know we're not open in evenings anymore, really. I mean, it's till 6, but like that's
Well,
if they
Alan
go
did
home and have
say
dinner.
that if we needed the room, he could probably find a way for us to have it.
Okay, I know it's one of the last things we're considering, but the Bradford County Library historically has had such a strong programming, and we're just in lack of that now. And I did make mention of that at the last commissioners meeting I was at, because it was really saddening. Could I if it's not, if that part is finished, could I ask, I wasn't at the commissioners meeting this morning. What happened with the RFP?
Nobody applied in time.
Okay. How long was it
One
open?
application arrived, sorry?
How long was it open?
It was open until January 6th at
26.
9:30 in the morning.
Okay, so what,
So they wouldn't have been able, anything that arrived on that day probably wouldn't be delivered to the courthouse until after that day. So it would have had to,
And with the holidays in there,
Right.
and the
when did it-
mails, and like
Right.
today is a no mail day due to the state funeral.
Right.
Or federal funeral.
right, and they did have, one application arrive
Too late,
after
so
the, deadline.
maybe they'll reissue
and they
the
did
RFP and
They,
people
they,
or persons will get it in on time.
they gave no real direction.
No, they're gonna meet about it again and talk about the situation. I don't, there's no,
So no decision
I
was
mean,
made.
how long did it take them last time? From April until November, so.
I'm trying to remember what meeting it was that they approved it. Was it the November 14th or was it the December 12th meeting?
Well, it was November,
Okay, so.
I'm pretty sure.
It was back in November,
Yeah.
they had over a month
It
of
might
it.
have been.
Well, they delayed putting in the newspaper by quite a bit, so they moved the date from November, or December 26th that
Right,
had to
they
begin by
did change.
to the 6th, so
They
it
did.
may have still been a month, but it
it
was.
was only 1 month, that's what,
I think that's, yeah, I think originally it was only approximately a month. And I think it got maybe a little bit shorter or maybe the same when they moved it to the 6th as being the date that it's required to be in. Because they were delayed getting it in the newspaper. So they moved it to a later date than the 26th. So that it wasn't out for long. They really only gave about 2 weeks for somebody to.
maybe they could
Yeah,
change
if you
it to.
include the holidays, it's
Yeah.
very little time to
Very,
respond to something like
yeah,
that.
not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I
Considering the
don't know
detail they
if
asked
any
for,
of
too.
that would go through, like the State Library Association. I wondered if they forwarded it to the State Library Association under the
They-
Department of Education, like June Hotelian that does our whole region, and throughout the state.
They said that they had provided it to a local newspaper, it was in the Rocket Carrier, and some of the library consultants that had been spoken to in the past.
Oh.
And that sounds like that's all they did for advertising.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't think.
well,
they-
I don't know how
think
many
they did
library
advertising,
consultants
to be
there
honest.
are out there.
Oh, I know, you have to cast a very broad net.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a,
Common
it's not.
job. Well, it would be after years and years of experience. Yeah. Okay, next meeting is slated for March 13th, 1 o'clock here.
Okay. Okay, 2:46 adjourned.